Welcome to the Marriage Steps podcast, where developing a long-lasting, happy relationship is the status symbol to achieve, and following my 6 marriage steps is a path to help get you there. I'm your host, Dr. Wyatt Fisher, a licensed psychologist specializing in marriage counseling. The Marriage Steps podcast is listener-supported, so to help keep it on the air so couples worldwide can receive hope for their marriage, please consider becoming a monthly supporter by going to patreon.com/marriage steps. The marriage tip of the day is take ownership for your part. When your spouse is upset with you, or when you have a conflict, how often do you sit and reflect on your part? It's so easy to point the finger and think we're innocent. But as I'm sure you've heard, every time you point the finger, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. So it's important when you have a conflict or when you're upset with your partner to always be thinking about what is your part. Maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 15%, maybe it's 90%. But a lot of times we get so obsessed with what our partner is doing wrong, we don't look at our part. But if you look at your part and take ownership for your part and apologize for your part, you're going to be much easier to live with because you're going to express humility. You're going to be able to resolve conflicts easier. So think about this week, whenever you have tension with your partner, instead of just thinking about what they did wrong, also think about what you did wrong so you can take ownership for your part. The marriage joke of the day is last night, my wife allowed me to remove all of her clothing from the dryer. Okay, the marriage message of the day. 5 things to consider when you want to give up. Have you been there before? You want to give up on your marriage? Maybe you're there now. I've been there. I've been in seasons in my marriage where I wanted to give up. I wanted a divorce. I wanted to throw in the towel. I wanted to stop trying. I was exhausted. I've been there. I know how that feels. And it's a horrible feeling to have. So when you're in that slump, I'm going to go through 5 things to consider. The first thing is wait. When we're in that slump, a lot of times we're flooded, our heart rate is elevated, we're in fight or flight, we may be panicking. So you don't want to make any decisions about your relationship when you're in that state. So you want to wait at least 24 hours, and ideally you'd wait at least a week, if not a month, before making any major decisions on if you really should give up on your relationship. Because we can be in a fog, we can be in a funk, and we're in fight or flight, so we're not thinking clearly. So the first thing to consider when you want to give up is wait, because you may wake up the next day and feel something different. So wait. The second thing is talk with trusted friends about your situation, about what you're feeling in your marriage, and especially friends who are pro-marriage, and get their feedback. A lot of times we have tunnel vision and we lose objectivity because we're in the chaos ourselves. So we all need 1 or 2 close pro-marriage friends that we can talk to and say, what do you think? This is what's going on. I feel like giving up. What do you think? I've had that in my life. When I've gone through those seasons where I wanted to give up, thankfully I had 2 close male friends that I was able to reach out to and say, hey, this is what's going on. I want to give up. What do you think? And both times they said, that sounds really hard, what you're going through. And I think you guys need this and this to change, but don't give up. And those words helped me not give up. And so don't rely on your own decision making, because when you want to give up, we have a biased view, we're exhausted, we're fatigued, we're not thinking clearly. So you need objective outsiders to help you see straight. So reach out for support from close friends who are pro-marriage. Third thing to consider is zoom out for progress. Sometimes we get so hyper-focused on the negative with our partner, we just look at the short term with how things have gotten worse. But if you zoom out and look over the past 6 months, look over the past 2 or 3 years, look over the past 5 years, have they gotten better? Have things overall improved? Maybe they have. And maybe you're just losing perspective because you're just looking at the last month or the last 6 months or the last week on how things have gotten worse. But if you zoom out, it helps our perspective because a lot of times we're overlooking the progress that has been there. The fourth thing to consider is see a therapist. If you want to give up on your marriage, see a therapist. And you may need to see several. When my wife and I were going through our hard times in our relationship, it was hard for me to go out and see a marriage therapist because I am a marriage therapist. And so I had to swallow my pride, and I had to realize I cannot be a marriage therapist in my own marriage because I'm not objective. And my wife doesn't see me as a marriage therapist. She sees me as her partner with strengths and weaknesses. And so it didn't work. And so I had to swallow my pride and recognize we need an objective third party to help us through this rough patch. And that's what we did. We reached out for a marriage therapist. We started with one, didn't like the person too much, didn't work out too well. We went to a second one, and they were a little better. We stayed with them for a little while, and then we stumbled upon a third one, and that one we stayed with for a long time. And that therapist helped us quite a bit because she was able to speak into our relationship in a way that I was unable to because I'm a part of the relationship. So maybe that's where you are. Maybe you feel like you need to give up or you want to give up. But I would highly recommend, instead of giving up, seek a marriage therapist wherever you live. And you may need to seek several marriage therapists. Every therapist has their own style, their own strengths, their own insights. So you might need several over an extended period of time before you start realizing some sustainable gains in your relationship. The fifth thing to consider when you want to give up in your relationship is that your partner's attitude matters the most. If there's things with your partner that upset you or hurt your feelings or your needs aren't being met, how does your partner respond to these problems? If they scoff at the problems, if they're resistant to therapy and won't go, and if they say it's all your fault, then most likely you're going to need to get a separation because that partner is not teachable. In contrast, if you're married to someone who's willing to take ownership for their part, and maybe it's not all their fault, maybe you have something you're contributing to it, but if they're willing to look at their part and willing to take ownership for their part, and they're willing to see a therapist, you should not leave your partner because you have a teachable participant. They may not be good at executing the changes. They may fumble around and struggle because maybe the changes you want them to make rubs up against their trauma or their lack of secure attachment or who knows. So they may not be the best at executing the changes. That may take a long time. But if their heart is in the right place, if they're willing to change, if they're willing to look at their part, if they're willing to see a therapist, then give them another chance. Because you have a willing participant. You have a willing partner who has a teachable heart. And that makes all the difference. So, if you're in a slump right now, or if you get into one in the future and you want to give up, remember these 5 things. Number 1, wait, because you're probably in fight or flight. Number 2, talk with trusted friends who are pro-marriage to get their perspective. Number 3, zoom out to look for progress over the last 6 months or several years. Number 4, see a therapist, maybe multiple therapists. And number 5, check for your partner's attitude. If they're open and teachable, hang in there and keep working on your marriage. Thank you for listening to the Marriage Steps podcast. If you enjoyed the episode today, please leave a review and click the 5 stars. And if this podcast has helped you have a better marriage, I would love to hear from you. And I would love to interview you on the podcast so others can be inspired by your story. So if that's you, email me please. My email is info@drwyattfisher.com. Also, be sure to go to my website for more marriage resources at drwyattfisher.com and message me your marriage questions. Now remember, your marriage is alive, so if you care for it, it will grow. But if you neglect it and deprive it, it will eventually die. The choice is up to you. Take care.